Good to see everybody here. So today is ISKCON, fasting from grains and beans and chanting more, and it's also the commemoration of the disappearance day of Srila Goloka Das Babaji Maharaj, who is the spiritual master of His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is the spiritual master of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder, Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So today we're going to speak about Goloka Das Babaji Maharaj as part of the class. But first, we are going to chant the prayers to the departed Vaishnavas, known as Saparshada Goda Viraha Vilapa, which Srila Prabhupada instructed us to chant whenever we're observing the day of a departed Vaishnava. Jai Hanilo Premadana Goruna Pracho Jai Hanilo Premadana Koruna Pracho Hey no Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Hey no Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Hey no Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur Kahamora Sadhu Rupa Kaha Sanatan Kahamora Sarupa Kaha Sanatan Gahara Sahu Raghunatha Bhaktita Pavan Kahatasahu Raghunatha Patita Pavan Kahamora Bhatta Juga Kaha Kaviras Kaviras. Ekakale Kotagela Gora Naturas. Ekakale Kotagela Gora Naturas. Ashane Kutivo Mata Anale Pasibo Ashane Kutivo Mata Anale Ashane Kutivo Mata Anale Pasibo. Goranga Gunera Nere Kotakile Pabo. Goranga Gunera Nede Kotakile Pabo. Say Sabha Sangira Sange Ye Koilo Vilas. Say Sabha Sangira Sange Ye Koilo Vilas. Say Sangana Paya Kande Narotamodas. Say Sangana Paya Kande Narotamodas. Ye anila prema dana koruna prachur. Jaya Gorka Shordas Babaji, Jaya Gorka Shadas Babaji, Jaya Gorka Shordas Babaji, Jaya Gorka Shordas Babaji. Jai Om Vishnupad. Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also tell us that Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivananda Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinnikajai, Namacharya Shidhira Stakur Kijai, Ram Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Nikajai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayamakunda Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuradam Ki Jai, Jagannathaswami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Laside Ki Jai, Sabhaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Jinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Pasyachya Dejatarni. So let's read the translation to this prayer by Narottam Das Thakur. He who brought the treasure of divine love, and who was filled with compassion and mercy. Where is such a personality as Srinivasa Acharya gone? Where are my Swarup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta? And where is Krishna's Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against the rock and enter into the fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all of these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottama Das simply weeps. So, Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurve Namaha. So today we are commemorating the disappearance, pastimes of Gorkashore's Das Babaji Maharaj. And so first I'm going to talk about who or what a Babaji is. So there are different orders of sannyas. There's Kutichak, Bahudak, Paravajakacharya, and finally Paramahansa. So let me describe those orders briefly. That the first order of sannyas is when one first takes sannyas, and generally people take sannyas when they're 50 or 60, not at an early age. When one first takes sannyas, one cannot figure out how to eat without his wife's cooking. So it's just like, it's a bewildering thing for someone. And so then, of course, Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj didn't have that particular issue. He immediately took Babaji after his wife passed away. But we'll get to the story in a second. So that's the first order. So he resides, a Kutijak sannyasi, he resides in the same village as his family, and he gets the food that's transported. His wife cooks it, and the son transports it to him. So after a while, he figures out, well, maybe Krishna is taking care of me. And of course, we know that, Nitya Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam, Eko Bahunam, Yovadati Kama. That's from the Upanishads, Svetaswata Upanishad, which states that Krishna is taking care of everybody. He's maintaining all the plural living entities, and he's the supreme eternal living entity, and we are his parts and parcels. So, anyway, one figures that out. So, but still, he's not quite that renounced. So what he does is he goes from house to house and does manukari, like a bee, collecting a little pollen from each flower. So he goes to each house, and they give him one roti, not two rotis, not three rotis. It's only supposed to take one roti from each house. For those of you who don't know what a roti is, it's a chapati. And then after that, he decides, well, maybe Krishna is taking care of me. And then he takes the Parvajakacharya type of sannyas, where he just travels everywhere. And he doesn't worry about food, because food will come automatically. He doesn't get an anxiety. He doesn't go to people's houses asking for food, although they'll give him food. Still, he just depends on Krishna. And then finally, but still he's traveling and preaching. And the highest order of sannyasa is called the Paramahansa. Paramahansa means topmost swan-like person. And that topmost swan-like person, he just stays in one place, meditates generally one place, like Gorga showed us Babaji Maharaj. He's also called the Babaji. And he chants the holy name and is absorbed in the holy name. He doesn't worry about anything. And so he's just completely aloof from this world. And that's what a Babaji is. Now it's interesting, we say in relationship to Srila Prabhupada, Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya. So we have both terms in relationship to Srila Prabhupada, right? Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya. Usually you don't find those two words that are combined describing the same person. Of course, we do use that in our Premajwani prayers. But the point is that personalities such as His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, are Paramahansas. They're on the topmost level of devotional service, but they've also come down. Not really come down, but they're acting as if they're coming down. Can't really say that they've come down at all in a practical sense, but they've actually acting as those who are traveling and preaching, going everywhere. That's a Parvajakacharya, someone who keeps wandering, a wandering mendicant. Actually, it's sometimes the translation of that word is a wandering mendicant, Parvajakacharya. So Srila Prabhupada, actually out of his compassion, although he could have been absorbed completely in Krishna's names and could have been a Babaji, then he came down. Now, how many bona fide Babajis do we have in the world today? That's another question. Of course, there are some, but there's an interesting exchange between Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Gorka Shodas Babaji Maharaj, his Guru Maharaj. He said, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked Gorka Shodas Babaji Maharaj, what about all these self-realized souls that are there, that you're associating with? And what did Gorka Shodas Babaji Maharaj said? He said, they're all imposters. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who acts as a Babaji is an imposter, but that's an interesting statement by Srila Gorka Shodas Babaji Maharaj. No, Gorka Shodas Babaji Maharaj says, not Bhakti Siddhanta. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked him the question. So it was Gorka Shodas Babaji Maharaj who said, they're all imposters, because he was associating with the Babajis. Although he had another number of pure devotee Babajis who he associated with, like Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhagavat Das Babaji, who he took initiation from. But still, he saw that the majority were pretenders. And you see this even today, not to criticize anyone in particular. So next we're going to talk about his disappearance pastimes, or what is described here in this book that I'm making reference to, is entrance into the internal pastimes of the Lord. So he disappeared in this world, from this world, in the year, Bengali year, 1322, which actually corresponds to November 16th, 1915. Now you may ask, this is not November 16th right now, but this is the corresponding day on the moon-based calendar. So at sunrise, he actually, left this world. That's an auspicious time to leave. And then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur went to the Rani Dhamshala Kulia Dham, where Babaji Maharaj had been staying. So Kulia is actually an interesting place in the Navadvip area. It's the place where people get forgiven for their offenses. You'll find so many stories where devotees who committed offenses got forgiven by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at this particular place. So Babaji Maharaj had been staying, and so all the priests, or many of the priests of Navadvip's main temples, began to argue amongst themselves as to who should have the transcendental Babaji's body. Because they wanted the body there, generally not out of respect. It's a little cold, please don't leave the door open. So not out of respect for the Babaji, but they wanted to have his transcendental body there, so that would be a tourist place, basically, that would attract people and they would make more money. Actually, Srila Prabhupada commented that those who use the deity to make money, they're doing things that can be equated to using the Shalagram Shila to crack nuts with. I actually personally heard Prabhupada talk about that. I was in his room in Sridham Mayapur, and the devotees had just visited a temple, and they were not properly respected at this particular temple. And devotees started to talk about the deities, and Prabhupada said that there's no deity in that temple. And all the devotees were shocked. But Prabhupada, we saw the deity. And Prabhupada said, you heard what I said. There's no deity. They were using the Shalagram Shila to crack nuts with. In other words, they were using the deity for their own purposes. So anyway, there was a heated argument there, and all the parties said that Babaji's Samadhi should be at their temple. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur opposed all the illegitimate attempts and said that I am the only disciple of Srila Gaurgashodas Babaji Maharaj, but all the Babajis began to argue, no, you're not a disciple. They had no photographic evidence of this. And you're not a sannyasi anyway. So there was such a ruckus there that the chief of police from Navadvip, his name was Sri Jatindranatha Singha, like a lion. He arrived there to try to keep the peace. And sometimes you see that in temples, hopefully not ISKCON temples, where there's so much fighting the police have to come. I've seen that happen, not in ISKCON temples, in some other temples. Actually, in some temples in India, there's been so much conflict that the government actually had to take over the temples. So after a lot of controversy, the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said in a voice that was like thunder, I am the sole disciple of Babaji Maharaj. Even though I have not accepted sannyas, I'm a celibate brahmachari, and by the grace of Babaji Maharaj, I am not a hypocritical renunciate, secretly addicted to abominable habits or fornication, as some monkey-like people are. A direct quote. It's pretty heavy, isn't it? In front of all those Babajis. Obviously, he's referring to them. I take pride in saying, this is a direct quote, I take pride in saying this as a bearer of Babaji Maharaj's shoes. If there is someone here who is a renunciate of truly stainless character, then he can come forward and arrange for the Samadhi. I have no objection to that. He who within the last 1 year or 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, or even 3 days has not indulged in illicit association with women will be able to touch this spiritually blissful body. If anyone else touches it, he will be completely ruined. So he's putting I wouldn't say a curse, but just like a prediction, and a prediction made by a great devotee. A great devotee is called Satya Sankalpa. Anyone's heard that term before? Satya Sankalpa. That means his wishes, his words come true. So anything a pure devotee, his wishes come true. Why do they come true? Because Krishna becomes attracted and serves the pure devotee. That's one of the qualities of pure devotional service, that even has the means of attracting Krishna or controlling Krishna, according to Srila Rupa Goswami. So, at least the Babajis understood, oh, here's a pure devotee. We may want the body, but here's a pure devotee giving us not exactly, an inverse benediction. If anyone else touches it, he will be completely ruined. So the inspector heard this and says, are they going to believe this? What's the evidence for this? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, direct words, I will believe what they say. So in other words, he understood that these people at least had enough faith in Krishna that they understood that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was a bona fide devotee, and that they were worried that if they violated what he said, they would be ruined. So after this happened, all the Babajis turned their backs and slinked away, one by one. And the inspector of police was just, oh my God, what happened here? So some of the people who agreed with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, saying that you should have this transcendental body, you should take care of him because you're his disciple, they reminded Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's, not Srila Gaurkashoda's Babaji Maharaj's last wish. What was that last wish? That after passing away, his body should be dragged through the streets of the Holy Dham, and so he could have the dust of the Holy Dham all over his body. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur understood that that was his spiritual master's humility, and he replied, direct words, although we are fools, inexperienced, and offenders, we will still not be disinclined to understand the true meaning of the humility-filled words which have been spoken by my Gurudev to destroy the pride of worldly like-minded people. Even Krishna Chandra will personally think himself successful if he carries my Gurudev on his head or shoulders. After the departure of Haridas Thakur, Sri Gaura Sundara took the spiritual body of the Thakur on his lap and danced. What dignity he adorned it with! Therefore, following in the footsteps of Sriman Mahaprabhu, we shall also bear Babaji Maharaj's spiritually blissful body on our heads. So, on the following day, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur laid the body of his guru to rest in a sandpit on the bank of the Ganges. Later on, that had to be moved because the Ganges actually overflooded that particular area, and it was moved to the Chaitanya Math, which is there in Sridham Mayapur. That's the math established by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And there was a beautiful samadhi constructed there, and that samadhi is still there today. So, also I just wanted to recite the prayer to Gaurkashoda's Babaji Maharaj. Namo Gaurakishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralamba Rasambode Padambujaya Te Namaha, which translates as, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Gaurkashoda's Babaji Maharaj, spiritual master of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is renunciation personified. He is always merged in a feeling of separation from an intense love of Radha and Krishna. Okay, and we'll start to talk a little bit about his biography. All right, let's see. Let's go back to the beginning of the biography, my notes. So, Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj was actually, appeared sometime around the 1830s in East Bengal, which is now known as Bangladesh. And he appeared his village was on the banks of the Padma River. For those of you who remember the pastimes of Narottam Das Thakur, that's similar to the place where Narottam Das Thakur appeared. And we all know that Narottam Das Thakur, when he went bathing in the Padma River was imbued with the transcendental mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Narottam Das Thakur became transformed. So his father's name was most likely Vamshidas. He was from a Vaishya family, not a Brahminical family. Of course, there's some controversy about that name, but he was from a Vaishya family. So he was married at an early age, and he remained in household affairs for about 20 years, and he worked as a broker in the grain business. So his wife passed away, and after that point, he'd left his business, and he took the Babaji order of sannyas by approaching Bhagavat Das Babaji Maharaj, who was a great disciple of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, and he accepted from him the sannyas dress. Sannyas dress, of course, is the like a lungi, a white lungi, and that particular point, practically all sannyasis at that point accepted it was the Babaji order, which is interesting. Even Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he took sannyas, it wasn't like saffron dhoti and everything like that. And also, the Babajis, when they took the renounced order of life, they would shave off the sika and get rid of their Brahman thread, which is interesting. And sannyasis generally would do that, up to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The reason for that is that when one took sannyas, one was considered to be dead in a social sense. In other words, all the social standards that one may have, like the Brahman thread or the Sika, they were all renounced. That was real renunciation. So anyway, so after this, Srila Gorkashore Das Babaji Maharaj became renounced, and he lived under trees in various parts of Brajamandal. So at first he started out in Vrindavan, and he stayed in Brajamandal for approximately 30 years. And sometimes he would go to other pilgrimage places, and he was associated with other great devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, after taking instruction from Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, he was told to reside in Sridham Mayapur. So in the year 1897, when he was in his 60s, he went to Sridham Mayapur in Navadvip Dham from Vrindavan, as I mentioned before, under the instructions of Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, and resided there until his disappearance. And he would live simply by begging dry foodstuffs from the householders, and he would offer these foodstuffs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the simple expedient of holding them in his hand and offering them to Krishna. And in order to cook, he would just collect some dry wood from the different paths, the forest paths, and wouldn't cut down any trees because he didn't want to harm any living entity. And he would wash earthen pots that he would utilize to cook in that were thrown away, because generally during an eclipse they would throw away the pots. So he didn't consider them spoiled or contaminated, because they were used for Krishna, which is really interesting. And then he would also dress himself when he dressed himself, because sometimes he would just be in so much absorption in Krishna's pastimes, he would walk around without any clothes, but he would dress himself in the discarded clothes that were by the cremation ghats. And these clothes were utilized to cover the corpses. And so generally people would think this is very impure, very, very impure. But in this way, so the reason for this, not that austerities were the main focus of his consciousness, but the reason for this was that he wanted to be independent from everyone else. Because when you take service from someone, and he was very much averse to taking service from anyone. When you take service from anyone, there's a sort of control factor there. You become controlled by them to a certain extent. Now, obviously, if someone is doing service out of love, then that's a different thing. But still, he was so cautious and careful not to take service from anyone, and also taking service from someone, of course, not in his case, but in our case, it can cause someone to become proud, thinking that I'm the master and there's my servant. So even there's some example in his particular pastimes when he was losing his eyesight. And so Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur had made arrangements for him to go to a doctor in Calcutta. So he said, you should go to, and he actually also arranged a good diet for him, health diet, for Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj. But Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj, he would not accept the healthy diet. So detached. And also because he didn't want to take service from anyone. First of all, of course, he didn't worry about getting controlled by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but he wanted to always consider himself a servant of everyone else in amanina manadena, offering respects to others and not expecting any respect or accepting any respect from others. So then, anyway, so he was told to go to Calcutta to have his eyes checked. And he refused. First of all, he said, I'm not going to go to that place of Kali, the material world. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that you don't have to worry. I will send Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur with you to take care of you. So you'll have good association, in other words. And then he got so upset, Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj got so upset, I will never accept service from Prabhu. So remember, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was his disciple. So I will not accept any service. And then he disappeared. He was so upset with the idea. Just complete humility. Can you imagine that? The pinnacle of humility. So upset with the idea of having someone do something for him, that he just left and he disappeared for some time and they couldn't find him. Amazing, isn't it? So anyway, so he wouldn't accept, the main thing is he wouldn't accept support from anyone. There were a few exceptions when Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1897 constructed a place of bhajan on the bank of the Saraswati River format, Godrundweep. So that's one of the 9 islands of Navdweepdam, which represents kirtan, which means representing recitation of the holy names of Krishna. And that ashram was called the Swananda Sukada Kunja. And previously it had been the site of Lord Nityananda's Namahat. Namahat, of course, that means the marketplace of Krishna's holy names. And here Bhaktivinoda Thakur would recite the Bhagavatam daily, give Bhagavatam class, and Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj would actually come there and hear Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhagavatam class every day. During the class sometime, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur would make reference to Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj and use him to give an example of someone who is nirapeksha. Nirapeksha means someone who is just detached, indifferent actually. Sometimes we think that detachment or renunciation means to be averse to things in this material world, like the Mayavadis are. But detachment, real detachment, is to be indifferent to things of this world. So it's described here that he often discussed the renunciation, pure devotion, and attachment to Krishna that Babaji Maharaj displayed. And then when Bhaktivinoda Thakur retired, they would stay together and they would discuss Krishna Katha together in great happiness. And actually that place of bhajan of Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj is preserved today. His only possessions, the only things he had in this world, were tulsi beads he wore around his neck, and some of the biographers say that he chanted on cloth knots, and some others say that he had tulsi mala, a rosary. And it says he kept his chanting, whether chanting beads or the knots on his hand all the time. And of course he gave the knotted cloth to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he also kept a few books, even though he was illiterate, but illiterate in the sense that he didn't know Sanskrit. He also was able to read and understand Bengali. So he kept the books of Narottama Das Thakur, specifically the Prarthana and the Prema Bhakti Chandrika. And many of the poems that we actually recite in ISKCON come from these two books. And I described before, sometimes he went naked and just, real avaduta. Avaduta means like the wind, just completely absorbed and sometimes oblivious to everything in this material world. So sometimes he had no clothes on, and sometimes he would utter harsh sounds of disgust for no apparent reason. But still, in spite of being illiterate as far as Sanskrit is concerned, he understood the purport and conclusions of all the Shastras. Krishna revealed everything to him. Dadami buddhi yogam tam, yenamam upayanti te. Again, we talked about how nobody could serve him. He could actually manifest the qualities of knowing what was in someone's mind, because oftentimes people would come to him with ulterior motives, and he knew exactly what was happening in their. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote, "Many young, clever, old, learned, foolish, proud, and reasonable persons came into contact with Srila Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj, yet they could not understand and realize his real identity." So, another quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is, Srila Gorkashordas Babaji Maharaj never displayed any distaste for those persons who were inimical to him. He also never manifested any special affection for those very dear to him. He would often express himself saying, "In this material world, I am alone in my service to Lord Krishna. Everyone is worshipable by me." So, let's see, I think 1 minute left, right? There's a lot to say here. I mean, this biography, I'm not even 10% through the biography, my notes here. So anybody have any questions? So today we are observing his disappearance day, and we pray for his mercy. Yeah, a latrine. Well, someone donated a latrine to him. So he would chant his japa in it. He had the person clean one of the rooms in the latrine. It's not that it was like still uses a latrine, but he would chant his japa so that people would not bother him while he was chanting japa. So, any other questions before we greet the deities? I mean, I have more stories here. One of the stories I told already. Let's see. Oh yeah, one time. Okay. Thank you very much. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Goloka Shordas, Babaji Maharaj.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Nandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakale Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Divan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Namam Sharam Sachid Anandurupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Namam Sharam Sachid Darupam Yasunameo Luka Lanavambanam Param Rishtamat Yan Tato Drujagopya Rudantamuhunetra Yugvam Rijantam Kadam Puja Jugmenahu Satsanganetram. Musashakam patre regankakanta Sita graivam damo dharammadivadam. Iti triksane labir ananda kunege swagosham nimajantam akyapayantam. Lilabir ananda kunege Goshamni Majantam Dadi Esita Geshu Bhaktadi Tagatwam Punak Prematastam Shatavriti Vande. Varam Deva Moksham Na Mokshavatim Vaha Nachanyam Vrinayam Vareshadabhya. Idam teva purnata Gopala baladaham Sadame manas yavirastam kimanyai. Idam te mukam mojam ajantadnilai Vritam kundalai snigdharataischa gopya. Moschumbitam bimba ratadadameki manasya virastam alam lakshalabai. Namo Deva Dhammo Da Ananta Vishnu Prasidap Abo to God Jalabdimanam Gripatristi Vristati Dinambatandu Grahane Samamagyam Ejakshidresha Kuveratma Jaumana Muchai Yadvat Vayamochi Tao Makti Bajo Kritoja Data prema bhaktim swa kame prayagacha Namhokshegra kome sti namudareha Namaste Stodam Nespuradipchidam Ne Twadiotarayata Vishvashadam Ne Namo Radhikaya Tva Diya Priyaya Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam Namo Mishwaram Satchit Ananda Rupagam Lasat Kunalam Gokule Vrajamanam Yasodabiyanuka Ladavamanam Paramrishtam Ajanta Udrujagopya Jayarad Hadamodarad Hadamodaradre Jayarad Hadamodaradra Hadamodaradre Jayaradha Golokananurana Golokananurane Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravakacharya, all Sajata, Satashi, Shimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nandakoti, Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Vidas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Saim Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagat Vasami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasadevi Ki Jai Saveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Mam Vishnupadaya Krishna Vastai Budale Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste. Saraswati Devi Gaurvadi Pachardi Nivasesas Nivali Vastat. Our name. To the Supreme Controller, who possesses an eternal form of blissful knowledge, whose glistening earrings swing to and fro, who manifested himself in Gokula, who stole the butter that the gopis kept hanging from the rafters of their storerooms, and who then quickly jumped up and ran in retreat in fear of Mother Yashoda, who was ultimately caught. To that Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances. Upon seeing his mother's whipping stick, he cried and rubbed his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes were fearful and his breathing quick, and his mother Yashoda bound his belly with ropes. He shivered in fright, and his pearl necklace shook. To the Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, who is bound by his devotees' love, I offer my humble obeisances. Those super excellent pastimes of Lord Krishna's babyhood drowned the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy. To the devotees who were attracted only to his majestic aspect of Narayan and Vaikuntha, the Lord herein reveals, I am conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion. To the Supreme Lord Damodar, my obeisances hundreds and hundreds of times. O Lord, although you were able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for liberation, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayer is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appear in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want to know your feature of Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart. O Lord, the cheeks of your blackish lotus face, which is encircled by locks of curling hair, have become reddened like bimba fruit due to Mother Yashoda's kisses. What more can I describe than this? Millions of